on your face when you're moving from place to place. Good morning, good morning, morning, good morning, morning.
Good morning and welcome back. It's Youth Wednesdays on the Tobago Updates morning show, and I am Aliyah Holla. And good morning to you, Dwayne.
Good morning, good morning. We have a show with a difference this morning. We had Johnny doing the news in 90 seconds. We had you two beautiful ladies opening the show. Real good stuff happening this morning.
Yeah, and you just appear out of the blue.
No,
Where
I
you come
didn't
from?
appear out of the blue. You know exactly where I came from. Don't come with that this morning, eh? Don't come with that this morning. And I like the rundown this morning. I really love it this morning. It's such a pleasure to have this guest this morning. The Prime Minister, the new Prime Minister of Grenada, breaking a lot of chains and making a lot of uncomfortableness in the political space.
I would say that it's a time of change within the Caribbean, because we see a lot of Caribbean countries. I won't be biased here, but a lot of Caribbean countries, including ours, shifting a lot of 20 and 22 years people out of their positions. But
well, I mean, it's not being biased, it's the truth.
It is the truth.
I would have said it early on. I think it was earlier in the year that now is a time for change. Change is rampant. I think the change began with, I think it was Jamaica. Jamaica, then Barbados, and then now Tobago.
Trinidad and Tobago.
Right,
well, Tobago. And then now, Grenada.
And I think the Caribbean, I think Tobago, since it began with Jamaica, they sneeze and we catch the cold.
Yes,
so
everybody else is just coming down the chain.
Because change is good.
Change is
good, and it is inevitable. So we have the Prime Minister, the newly elected Prime Minister for Grenada this morning, and he's on with us virtually, and we just want to say good morning.
Hi, good morning, Mr. Mitchell.
Good morning, Ali, and good morning, Dwayne. How are you guys doing?
We are fine.
Certainly not as fine as you, man. And you're young too, just like we Chief Secretary.
Yes. Well, I'm probably younger than I probably look younger than I am, but that's a good thing.
Yes, 23.
Thank you. I'll take that any day.
To get things started off, congratulations to you and your political party. But how does it feel to break the barrier and seat someone for 22 years? How was that for you?
Good question. I don't know that I've had time to really think about it. I didn't, when I got involved, I wasn't thinking that, well, one, I wasn't even thinking that I was going to be an MP, much less the leader of the party and then the Prime Minister of the country. My focus was really on, having other persons along with me join with a view to first rebuilding the National Democratic Congress. The party had lost elections twice, devastatingly not having won any seats in Parliament. And we felt that if persons like myself didn't get involved, the possibility that the party would be able to rebuild and contest the elections in a competitive manner was slim. And so first, the approach was really to focus on getting others to join the party, recruiting more persons, strengthening the party, doing the groundwork so that the party could once again be viewed favorably by the Grenadian public. And that is how we started. But things changed dramatically in terms of the party having a convention, in terms of a number of us offering to run on the executive. And in short order, I became the political leader. And then in short order, we had elections. So, and it's been 3 weeks since I've become the Prime Minister. Obviously, it's a lot of work. And so my focus really has been on the work. I suppose I haven't had enough me time to sort of reflect on the fact that I've unseated someone who's dominated our politics. But I think the reality is that the island wanted the change. I think the public was happy to have a different option to choose from. And I think that, certainly our campaign and I think our messaging resonated with the public. So for me, it's more about the work. It's more about service than the competition. In one sense, Dr. Mitchell, who lost the election, is par excellence a very good politician, perhaps one of the best we've had in the regions. He's won elections in Grenada overwhelmingly on 3 occasions, winning all seats in Parliament. So there's no doubt he's a master politician. But I think for the public and for us, we more focus on What value do we bring to the office? What changes can we bring? What improvements can we bring to people's standard of living? So it's more about that for me than, say, the competition.
All right.
All right. And I want to find out what was so great about your campaign that so resonated with the people that you would have won at this particular time. What were some of the pillars of your campaign?
Right. Well, I think there were some obvious differences. Our campaign was very interactive. We had, for example, I call it Town Hall Wednesdays, where every Wednesday, even before we actually launched our manifesto, we actually launched our manifesto literally at the climax of the campaign. But I thought it was important, given the short space of time that we had, that we in fact let the public know what are the programmatic platforms that we were campaigning on. So every Wednesday in a different parish or a different constituency, we would actually engage with the public by setting out, for example, our position on youth development, youth empowerment, our position on agriculture or fishing, our position on the digital economy or ICT, our position on the varying issues affecting workers within the country. And we would then give the audience an opportunity to ask us questions, to make comments, to have queries, to debate with us. That was very interactive. When we started, we still had the threat of COVID-19 hanging around. And at least on one instance, we had to do it virtually. But we were fortunate enough to be able to do this live with a live audience and to have it streamed live. And I think that resonated with the public because they recognized that we were prepared to subject ourselves to scrutiny, to have people ask us questions, and not the traditional sort of campaign where you simply go at a rally and you speak to people and they don't have the opportunity to really interact with you. And it wasn't just the Town Hall Wednesdays, but in our pocket meetings. Certainly my pocket meetings, for example, in my constituency, at every pocket meeting, I would speak for 15 to 20 minutes. And in the next 2 hours, basically, we fielded questions. The audience got a chance to take the mic. Sometimes they didn't have questions, but they literally wanted an opportunity to talk about the things that mattered to them. And I think that resonated with people because it meant we were real, we were authentic, we were not just here to try and, for want of a better word, transact a vote.
Right.
And I think that made a significant difference in terms of how people received us and got our message. So that was one, I think, clearly defining a difference between our campaign and the incumbent. The second was that we really stayed away from, I guess, what we style as gutter politics. We really didn't spend any time criticizing the government or tearing down any of our colleagues who were running for office. We really focused on messaging. And to some extent, it meant our opponents was not in our consciousness. What we were really conscious about is the messaging, what are the things Grenadians want to hear, debate, and talk about. So the issues was our approach. Of course, with social media, which is a bit of the wild, wild west, there would have been some negative campaigning by oftentimes supporters or persons who may be up for mischief. But for the most part, we stayed away from that. Certainly our candidates and official members of the party, we stayed on message, and I think that resonated with the population as well. The third thing I would say is, our campaigns have, I think, traditionally almost become driven by entertainment only, rather than content. And we made a real disciplined effort to stay away from that. As a party who had lost elections twice, financial resources was very limited. And so we wanted to be sure that whatever resources we had, that we use it wisely. And to that extent, for example, except for 2 of our rallies, all of the entertainment would have been provided by local artists who were not just on stage to make money, but who really believed in the issues that we were promoting. And so many of them did songs that reflected the themes that we were talking about. And I think, again, that resonated with the public because they recognized that we were using local talent, we were supporting young artists, and they were, in a sense, taking a risk because we come from a culture of political victimization. And so they were actually taking a risk of getting on a political platform to support a party that they felt resonated with their cause. So I think those 3 things, sort of an immediate reflection, I think were clear differences between our approach and that of the incumbent.
All right. And you wouldn't believe that we were debating here what questions we should ask you next. And I think it would be remiss on behalf of both of us if you don't ask, if you have looked at the other campaign strategies from Jamaica right up to the Tobago House of Assembly strategy, and somewhat mimic your campaign based on that. Anything at all, if you want to comment on that at all?
more so the Tobago
Sure.
previous election.
Yes,
Tobago for sure. I think in a sense there's a certain similarity of perhaps David and Goliath. And I think with the prayers of the prayer warriors and others who supported us quietly, in a sense, David prevailed. But I think for us, the key thing we recognize is that politics is about people. And therefore, the grassroots campaign, I think, is almost always more effective. I think sometimes politicians forget that. And we say grassroots, but what it really means is if you're a politician or an aspiring politician, you really should be prepared to genuinely be in touch with your people all the time, to hear from them, to interact with them, sometimes just to give them an opportunity to see you or hear you and speak with you. And I think certainly my experience is that, frankly, a lot of the complaints we heard about our politicians in general was the fact that once elections are over, you don't see them, you don't hear them, you don't get a chance to interact with them. And as a result, people literally feel that they've been transacted, which is you come to me to get my vote and then you don't hear from me. I don't see you. I don't get the opportunity to meet you. And if I do, I have to leave and come to your office. You never make the effort to come to the villages, to come to the communities. So I think certainly the lesson for us going forward as well is that we need to make sure we stay grounded. We need to make sure that we build some of the community institutions, community groups, village groups, youth groups, sporting groups, a lot of which have disappeared, to make sure that we can interact in a genuine, honest way with our constituents. So I think definitely the grassroots campaign in Tobago's case, make sure that we did as well.
Right. My other question is, do you foresee any opportunities or relationships being built heavily between Tobago and Grenada?
Certainly, I mean, we close by. There are probably more Grenadians living in Tobago and Trinidad than they are living in Grenada. So I think one of the things we struggle with a little now is that our air travel between Grenada, Tobago, and Trinidad is not what it used to be. And that is something that we really need to improve, because it certainly in the case of Grenada, it has really stymied opportunities for Grenadians to travel to Trinidad and Tobago as frequently as we did in the past. But it's not Grenada, Tobago, and Trinidad alone. It's even within the OECS. So it's one of the things that I'm really keen on trying to make sure that we can put some effort and emphasis in to allow our citizens to be able to travel freely and more efficiently and more cost effective amongst our islands. I also genuinely feel that there has been a lack of political will to make travel amongst the islands and the OECS and CARICOM as seamless as we can. I really don't know that there's anything for Trinidadians to fear about Grenadians, or Grenadians to fear about Trinidadians or Tobagonians. And so it's difficult for me to understand why we still have a lot of the immigration restrictions that we have amongst ourselves, given our historical close ties, or cultural ties, or sporting ties, or family ties. And it's one of the things I really want to champion within CARICOM in general, and amongst our islands, is the need for people to be able to travel seamlessly as citizens of CARICOM. So that's one of the major issues. I don't even know why we at CARICOM we are classifying workers into this worker and that worker. To me, once you're a citizen of CARICOM, you should be able to travel within CARICOM with no hindrance. I hope that that is something that we can progress during my time in office and during our generation for sure. So I certainly think we're brothers and sisters. And I don't think when you go to your brother's home, you ask for permission to come in. I think your brother welcomes you with open arms. And so I hope we can translate that on a national level amongst our islands.
So that's it okay to say that next time we interview or see you be on the Isle of Tobago? Sure?
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
I just have a quick question. What is your relationship like with the Honourable Chief Secretary? Because I think a birdie told me that you guys might have somewhat of a relationship. I don't know how true that is. And if not, do you
wish to build a relationship with him?
No, certainly. I think the fraternity is something that we have to build within the region amongst the leaders, because I think once that happens, it becomes easier to address issues or differences on policy that you may have. Because if you have a personal relationship with a colleague, I think it's a lot easier for you to understand where they're coming from and where you're coming from if you have divergence on policy or issues. So I think it starts with us as leaders. We have to forge a closer relationship. We have to want to be in a position where we can pick the phone up and call each other on issues that matter, as well as having united positions on regional or international matters. So certainly, since in a sense he's paved the way, it is certainly a relationship that I'd like to start and nurture.
All right. I have one last question based on one of your media releases. You said, and I quote, project number 1, I wanted to start by getting nutmeg plants, the clove plants, the cinnamon plants, because project number 1 is we are going to replant all of these spices. We know that Grenada is the land of spice. So, and I know that agriculture is taking a big part of Trinidad and Tobago and as well the Caribbean atmosphere. When you start planting these stuff, what opportunities do you see within the Caribbean, specifically to Trinidad and Tobago, for import and export?
Right, and that's actually part of the reason. In a sense, you've answered the question. It's part of the reason we want to do our spice replanting. So the need for replanting arises because we had a devastating hurricane 18 years ago, Hurricane Ivan, and that destroyed almost all of our spices. And there has not been a systematic replanting of it. What has happened is that individual farmers have replanted as best as they can their individual farms, but we really do have on a nation level large tracts of land, even large government estates that have not really been replanted deliberately and in a systematic manner. And what we really want to do is not just call Grenada the Isle of Spice, but we really want to make it a spice-producing nation as we once were before the hurricane. So we know for sure there's great demand for our spices in Trinidad, within the wider CARICOM region and internationally. And frankly, we can't supply enough of it. So the intention is to, in fact, have the spices replanted as quickly as we can, so that 4 or 5 years from now we could be in a position where we are producing spice at the level we did before Hurricane Ivan, and that we can be able to supply places like Trinidad and Tobago with the spice that we know you like. We know food, flavor, culinary art, spice, something that Tobagonians and Trinidadians are big on. Exactly. So we want to make sure that we're in a position to supply the produce that our colleagues and brothers and sisters need.
In the short time that we have, could you list some future plans that you have for the Isle of Grenada?
If not your top 5.
Sure. So,
the top 5.
well, we campaign on a transformation agenda, and we've started one. Well, it's not so much transformation as perhaps restorative justice. One of the things we need to address is the industrial climate in Grenada. There's been a lot of disputes and disquiet and in a sense a poor relationship between particularly public workers and the government. We want to change that around to recognize that we're on the same team. So there are a number of things we campaign on that we have already begun implementing. So for instance, we campaign on paying the pensions that our public servants have not been paid since 1985. We've already given the commitment to deal with the retroactive aspect of it by November of this year. We campaigned on changing the way in which workers are paid from once a month to twice a month. And so we're looking at the framework for changing that. We campaign, for instance, on ensuring that there's a more efficient and cost-effective way for workers and employers to resolve their disputes. We're looking at making the necessary legislative changes to the Employment Act to make that happen. We campaigned on transforming agriculture and boosting agricultural production. The spice replanting is a major aspect of that. But we also want to bring technology to agriculture in Grenada. And so we're going to be focusing heavily on things like greenhouses, the use of solar energy to help with our production capacity, and particularly making land available to young people who want to get involved in agriculture. That's a major issue we have to address if we're going to get young people involved. So that's one of the things we focus on. Food security in general. We talked a lot about the digital economy, and to that extent, we really have to revamp our education system. It is really colonial. There's only no other way to describe it. And so we have to bring modern technology into it, as well as we have to make sure our education system is aligned with our actual economy and the things that we have a competitive advantage in. So, for example, the same agriculture. While we teach agricultural science, we focus on recognizing that agriculture, and to a large extent our food, is going to come from us. If we are going to address the high cost of living and the high import food bill, we have to reshape our education and make agriculture, in a sense, one of the pivotal areas of our education system. Coding, programming, those things are not taught in our schools at all. We want to make that mandatory, almost the same way in which a second language is mandatory, because 60% of our population is 30 and under. And in order for us to find jobs for them when they leave school, we really want to create in them the ability to be global citizens and to work anywhere. Once you have the necessary skill set, you can stay in Grenada, you can stay in Tobago, and you can offer your coding and programming skills to the market around the world. So those are some of the things we want to push. The ocean, it's 77 times the size of our little island. And so the marine economy is something we want to really pay attention to, not just fishing or fish processing, which we don't have. So fish processing is one of the things we are keen to start here as well. But, Grenada is blessed with the ability to have, huge marinas. But a lot of our citizens don't work in the marinas, don't have the skill set to work in the marinas. So again, having in place skills training centers that can address things like job opportunities from marinas, from diving, scuba diving. Those are some of the issues we want to focus on. Again, because our education system has been colonial, traditionally academic, and the skills aspect of it has not been focused on. So whether it's things like boat repairs, machine maintenance, even skills needed for construction, tiling, painting, masonry, carpentry. Our education system does not, in fact, currently give the opportunity to our young men to learn those skills, young men and women to learn those skills. So those are some of the things we have to change in order to ensure that when people leave school, they can be deployed into the economy rather than be in a situation where they're trying to find a job. So that's part of the transformative agenda that we have to work on. So clearly, the education system is a major part of that.
All right. So thank you very much. But before we leave, I have a big proposal. It's kind of like a barter. So I know
Right.
that Grenada's carnival is in August and ours is
Yes.
in October. So the barter is for you to invite us in August and we return the favor for you to experience Tobago Carnival and come on set at Tobago Updates in October. So that's the favor.
That sounds like a very fair barter. Actually, my birth month is October, so I'd be happy to have a Tobago Carnival as my birth month gift.
No problem. We will see how best we could facilitate you.
Once you facilitate us first, we return the favor. Brothers and sisters in the thing.
Yes.
So thank you
All right.
very
Well,
much.
I certainly
for
look forward to
joining
that.
us.
Well, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure, and I didn't think I said good morning to my Tobago family. So Tobago, good morning, and I hope you have a fantastic Wednesday.
Oh, I think you should say good morning to your Grenadian family because they are all on the live talking about their wonderful Prime Minister and how he's young and fresh and brave and a whole lot of nice comments. So say good morning to your Grenadian family.
Good morning, PT Martin, Carrick, and Grenada. Thank you again for all of the support and the love, and have a great day.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us and hope that you have a great day. So, Dwayne.
Yeah, I like how we are inspiring greatness in our Caribbean member states. I mean, it's great, and I'm looking for further collaboration, as he spoke to, among our member states in the CARICOM. And just earlier in the week, I was really talking about how the issue of job came up, and there were a lot of impediments for persons interested in working in Tobago or even any other Caribbean country, and I think we need to begin to work collaboratively to remove some of those impediments so that we can have really true free trade, free movement of people, free movement of workforce in and across the member states. And I think
Of course.
in so doing we have a better CARICOM relationship.
Of course.